Fantastic.
Omar, you're on mute. Omar, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry. So excited to see everybody. I had seen that Guillermo had his face covering, so I wanted to make sure that I showed off my new HITEC full face running cover that I was able to order, and it took weeks to get, but excited to see everybody today. Wanted to take a quick moment to wish everybody a happy Father's Day in advance. Super excited to have Guillermo Diaz, G, as we affectionately know him, present today. Viv asked me earlier this morning if I would introduce him, and kind of the thought was, oh my God, how do you introduce somebody who everybody knows and who needs no introduction? So I'm just going to keep it really short. Guillermo Diaz is the chairman of our board, former CIO of HITEC, and now former CIO of Cisco, chairman of HITEC, and now the CEO of an incredibly exciting company called Kloudspot, who's doing some amazing things in the area of technology and IoT and so many other things. And I think doing such relevant work given the world that we're in today, and everything that's happening and everything that's about to happen. So excited to hear from him today. But really just wanted to say, G has been such an incredible mentor and inspiration to me, and I've learned so much from him just being able to work with him for the last year and a half. Such an incredible and empathetic and passionate leader, somebody who I have, over the course of the last year and a half, gotten to know, and somebody who I've grown to call a friend and a mentor. And I think that so many of us here share that sentiment. But without further ado, just want to turn it over to Guillermo, and thank you for everything that you do, and thanks for being with us today. So Guillermo, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Omar. Can you guys see me? Please say yes.
Yes.
You can see
I'm
me?
gonna take this thing off now. Yes.
All right. So thanks, Omar. I was choked up when you were talking. I'm actually, it's interesting times for all of us, right? And I think that what I wanted to share today is I actually decided to come to my office. There's only one person here other than me, because I'm really thinking about what this digital new normal looks like, and what does it look like when we all come back to the office, when we all go back to university, when we all go back to whatever it is that we do, the government agencies. And I think, what I want to kind of start simulating that, because our customers, my company Kloudspot, they're asking is like, we're trying to develop these get back to work strategies. And so I came in and I thought I'd kind of walk you through at least the first couple of minutes of what we're thinking about. Obviously wore my mask coming in, and what I'm doing now is I'm going to walk into the building. Now I'm going to flip this back around. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
So this is something what we call a cloud display. And obviously it loves my smile, but it asks me to wear a mask because it's actually detecting that I'm not wearing a mask. And it's also doing counting. It's counting there below. And now I'm walking into the building. So now it knows that I'm not wearing a mask. So I should be putting on my mask. And I'm walking in and I'm looking at this floor map, and it's constantly updating. And it really understands where I'm at in the building. So it knows now, there's G right there. That's where I'm standing. And as I traverse the building and go around, it kind of detects that. So in fact, if somebody happens to be sick or we just need to know where they're at, we can determine that. And then who else is around them. So this is something that we're doing here. and I'm walking you into our collaboration room here. There is one person here, and that's Ravi. Say hi to Ravi.
Hey guys.
So I'm keeping my distance from Ravi because I don't know where he's been. But on there, he's in the collaboration room. And what we have here is some folks there. That's Uday and there's Steve. But they're on the kind of the Zoom room, or could be the WebEx room. But while this display, Ravi, maybe just talk a little bit about that.
So this is like in seamless integration with collaboration tools. So based on your presence, once you come in, this can switch into your meeting room, right? So without you touching a button or whatnot. And if it's idle, this can switch into your company promotions, your HR, marketing.
Showing COVID data, all the things that we need to update the employees on, et cetera, right?
So we can't see G right now.
For some reason I cannot hear you, G.
What's that?
We can only hear you, but not see anything, G.
Oh, okay.
You see that?
Are you seeing that?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that.
And so that's what I was talking about. Without touching any button or whatnot, so you can switch based on your presence and your calendar schedules. The room can switch into your collaboration tool, could be Zoom or WebEx, right? And if there's no meetings in the room, this can start running based on the presence of the people. It can start running your HR content, your COVID-related content, any marketing stuff about your company and whatnot.
All right, Ravi.
That's what we call situation awareness.
All right. We're going to leave you now, Ravi. We're going to get back to our regularly scheduled program. So we're walking through. I'm going back to my presentation room so we can really talk about high-tech business. But I wanted to share with you some of the things that we have going on here. And hold on a second.
Hi, G.
Hey, can you see me?
We can see you.
Much better now.
Did you guys get the gist of that? Sorry, I was using my phone, and
It froze a little bit, but I think we saw some snippets of it.
did you see where it showed that I wasn't wearing a mask when I walked in?
You need your high-tech face covering.
Yeah, I know. And thanks for Omar for sharing that. Can you see my screen right now?
G, go ahead and reshare because I had to stop sharing so folks could see the screen. So go ahead and reshare one more time for me.
Okie doke.
There we go.
All right, everyone. Can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Yes, we can see your screen, yes.
All right, thanks, guys. So, so I just wanted to kind of share some of the things that, as I think back to things that we're doing I don't know that we're going to get back to what we thought of normal was 4 months ago. I think the digital new normal, as I'm calling it, is different now, and it's going to be different in the next 6 months, in the next year, in the next 2 years. It won't be back to this, what we thought of as normal. So we have to adapt and we have to transform. And what I really wanted to share with you all today is this whole notion of transformation and this continuous movement, this continuous road. And if you look at this picture right here, this picture, I spent a lot of time, you know, and those of you that know me, spent a lot of time thinking through how pictures and how messages and how this whole alignment around mind, body, and soul comes together. And this represents a lot for me, because if you look at the road, that road looks pretty straight, but the reality is the transformation road is not straight. It's rather very wiggly. And, but you know, there's something that always keeps you going. And to me, that water on the left side is what keeps me going. And that water is my mom. And every time that I felt like I was thinking through, I can't do this, I can't make this, you know, I would always go back to the water. So you move down the road and you go back to the water. And the water keeps you hydrated and ready for the next set of, you know, the next miles ahead on the road to transformation, and this continuous Camino to what I call purpose, and being able to leverage our platform. And I just wanted to kind of share this, where you always talk about remember where you came from to know where you're going. Well, this is where I came from. I came from this place called Pueblo, Colorado. And if you've ever heard me talk about it, it's so ingrained in everything that I think about, because I grew up there. And, you know, I grew up on the east side. So you hear me talk a lot about the east side. And that's where I grew up playing baseball. And the store that my aunt used to own, it's now, you know, kind of boarded up there. But this is where we grew up, you know, learning how to interact with people and bagging groceries and taking them out. And by the way, I never got paid for it because my cousins took all the money. But being able then to really think about how to connect with people, it really started from a really small age. And, you know, they always say, and Dwight Eisenhower said, what's in the water in Pueblo, Colorado? Because whatever they're building there, they're building these heroes. And so I really, really love the, you know, talking about that. And, you know, and if you've ever been to Pueblo, if you know anyone from Pueblo, they'll be very proud of that. But a lot of times we think about we're transforming and we're shifting, and I've thought about this a lot. And, you know, sometimes we think we're making change. Well, are we kicking the can down the road? Even if we think about the situation that we've been in the last 3 months, you think about that opportunity to transform, and have we really taken that? You look at the last couple of weeks, I mean, this has really laid a toll on me, and the way I've been thinking, you know, what I thought about transformation even 3 months ago, I've now had to kind of even rethink that in the last couple of weeks. But when we come out of this, is there, you know, is there an actual shift? Are you just kicking the can down the road? Are you just incrementally making things better? Or are you changing the composition of the structure, of your structure? And, you know, what does that look like when that transformation happens? And for me, you know, I spent 20 years at Cisco. I knew what, you know, I kept talking about transformation, but I really didn't know what I was transforming, but sort of kind of in the same body. And when I left Cisco, I really had to think about, well, what is it that I'm going to do? And when I took this CEO role, and when I took this CEO role here at Kloudspot, I learned that it's different, you know, and in fact, it's energizing. And some of the things that you saw there, in fact, I set up this stuff, you know, it's that easy, but there's this innovation happening from our team, and really getting energized and being able to do things in a whole different way than I've done them before, and think about things in a whole different way. And that's really been inspiring and energizing, all at the same time. I think, again, back to the journey and the foundation, you know, the future, I've always said, is like, you know, this is something that I've had for years. Obviously the Kloudspot CEO thing is new, but being able to see my kids through their journey, being able to continue this global leadership, and ultimately becoming an entrepreneur, which I feel like I'm actually learning. But in that learning process, I've had to unlearn a lot of things. So learning how to work, how not just to set things up, how to run a business, how to, if need be, how to clean the bathrooms, if whatever it takes, we have to do it, and it's a whole different mindset. And at the same time, being able to continue to inspire others, and do the best that you can to be that example, and to be that someone that is helping others along the way. And this is something that I continue to strive for. And some of you have seen my journey. It's been a wiggly line. But the good news is that many of you on this call, many of you that have been part of this journey with me, have actually lifted me up. We always say in HITEC, push up, pull up. We always talk about, adelante, moving forward. There's only one way, and that's adelante. We talk about now, we're really pushing this notion, and it's not just in the last couple of weeks. It's been for years, and especially in the last year, we've captured this mindset of changing the conversation, not continuing the conversation, because the continuous conversation is something that we're just kicking the can down the road. But now, in the last couple of weeks, it's really hit me. It's like, man, more than ever, our time to shift and to change and to transform is now, more than ever. And I think that HITEC and the things that we're all doing in our respective businesses, it's going to be different. The way that we've worked, 3 months ago is going to be different now, and it's going to be different in a year. The way that we've come together as a community was a bit different 3 months ago, and now we're on this digital platform. We're showing these webinars every week. We can move and we can pivot. It's not going to just be digital, but I'm hoping that one day we can get back together again as a community live. But the reality is we have to adapt. We have to transform into what the new reality is, and we've done that. And so not only in our respective jobs, but in how we come together as an organization, HITEC is transforming. We're transforming and we're shifting, and we will change the conversation. And now we have this opportunity. I was on a call last night with 7 Black CEOs. I was listening. And this is one thing that, as I think about my own transformation, that I need to continue to think about doing, is listening more. Is I've always had to feel like I was this lighthouse, and where I come from, you just saw the pictures, having to show an example, even for my kids, for my kids, I'm always in teaching mode, but I'm hardly in listening mode. And I've learned a lesson, especially in the recent couple of weeks, especially with my little guy, who has taught me a few things, and mostly how that I needed to listen, because he has so much passion around this, what's going on in the social world today, especially around Black Lives Matter and ultimately how brown lives matter and other lives matter. But right now, focusing in on the issue that we have to deal with right now. But I've had to learn that. Actually, I've had to unlearn. I've had to unlearn that I just do all the talking, and I sometimes take a step back and I listen. And so learning, relearning, and unlearning is something that I'm now, that's why this road is continuous. And, I've always kind of go back to my framework. I call it sort of like my compass, right? You always want to keep heading north towards your purpose. And continually finding that purpose, but what are those other factors that are bringing you along, the passion, that fire that you bring every day, and what keeps you passionate, and how do we use this community to help us drive that forward? The perspectives of others, of looking at it from their shoes. Like I just mentioned about my young guy, is taking a moment and, stop teaching, dude, and listen to what he's saying. And I've learned something. So getting that perspective, and then now using this platform that I've been blessed with to, work with this community in HITEC, to work with, being from Cisco and leveraging that platform, and now with Kloudspot, being blessed to have that platform to continually drive toward that purpose. And, I've shared this, my passion is where I'm from, but this platform, and I think about how I started back in the Navy, and the Navy is where I learned this thing called networking and telecommunications. It really helped me sort of, I had passion around it. I loved it. I loved doing that kind of work. But I also learned about there were other ethnicities. I grew up in a predominantly Hispanic environment, and I thought that the whole world revolved around the brown guys, and that's not always the case. And when I went, in fact, my best friend in boot camp was a black guy who spoke Spanish. Was really interesting, and I don't mean he was like he was not Latino, but he spoke Spanish. But I also learned there were there's other guys that were Latino, and they were Puerto Ricans and Dominicans and other than me. But it really gave me this opportunity to connect with different cultures. And so that was foundational for me. And as I think about, kind of why, always remember where you came from, I always say I grew up in 3 places. I grew up in Pueblo, I grew up in the Navy, and I grew up at Cisco. Cisco gave me a good foundation for that, because I learned about this thing called perspective, to be able to look at things from different sides of the bridge. I remember when I first started at Cisco, I was like the infrastructure, I was building out the internet foundation, and I thought that everything revolved around that because I could see everyone. I could see everyone northbound. The challenge was I didn't understand the southbound. I didn't understand what it was like to be in the business. So one day when I was asked to go to the business, and I was like, why would I do that? Because I can see everything from here. It was, hey buddy, you need to see things from the other side of the bridge. So when I went to the business, I learned that I didn't know shit. And then I learned about all of the different challenges from the other side. So I learned about this, we talk about this bridge to possible, and learning both sides of that. And the purpose of ultimately why we are here, right? I go back to, where I grew up, those 3 places that I just mentioned. And along the way, learning that there's this next generation there that we need to hear and we need to listen to, because they're going to be our future. And this is something that, you probably, some of you have seen these pictures before of Myra, of Miguel, of Kaela. I can name all of these kids by first name, and I know them because I've watched them not only grow, I've really, it's a passion of mine, and it's so fulfilling to see that next generation grow. But now we're in this place now where we need them more than ever. The underrepresented minorities are going to make up the majority of the workforce in the next 20 years. And that's not just me talking. Those are statistics. Those are numbers. And the reality is we need to keep bringing them along. And that's what I feel like my purpose is, to help raise that next generation. Not only technology leaders, but to help these kids find their purpose and help them carve out and help us sort of, create these fingerprints on the world. And, one of the things I'm very proud of talking about is when these students came to Cisco in 2014, all of these students that you see on this picture, they all came from where I come from. They all came from where some of us come from. They never knew about a Cornell University. They never knew that university was possible. And what was beautiful, and this is the Cristo Rey class of 2018, 100% of them were accepted to college, and 100% of them went to college. And I'm hoping that, obviously you don't have track of the, what's been, from that, but the ones that I see on this picture here, I can tell you, because I've kept in contact with them, that they've all, Myra is in Cornell University. Miguel is in San Francisco State. Kaela is in Santa Clara. Wendy is in USC. So these are not little small schools. These are predominant schools. And so I always ask what we're doing to put our fingerprints on the world, and what are you leaving your fingerprints on the world? What is that purpose for you? I think, when I left Cisco in February, I was given two things, and these two meant a lot. One, particularly, you see there's two sort of items here. And one says, thank you for your 20 years. And that was, hey, thank you for being a technology leader. Thank you for being a leader at Cisco for 20 years. And that was my platform. But this one here that you see, this whole, there's these sort of three interwoven sort of swirly things here. I don't even know what to call them. But on there, what it says is that thank you for being creating the multiplier effect for diversity. And one of the strands is myself. One of the strands is my family and team. And one of the strands is the community. And when you bring that all together, it's very powerful. And that is what I feel is, like, how do we raise that? And when this one right here is, it's like, it means so much because it's about purpose. And how do you leverage your platform to drive that purpose? Because what we know for sure, and we've seen it day in, day out for the last 4 months, is that change is going to happen by us, with us, or damn it, it happened to us. And in many cases, we weren't ready for it. And so we have to now think through, what are we going to do to transform? Because change is changing. Change is changing. The world has changed because of COVID. It's transforming. The world has changed because of the social and unrest and what we're seeing with Black Lives Matter. So now is that real opportunity for change to happen by us and with us. Because it always will happen to us, and we need to make sure that we're prepared. We're as prepared as possible. And that's what I strongly believe, that not only what I've learned, I've not just in Kloudspot, not just in HITEC, but we have this badass Facebook group. And I tell you, there's some days where I wake up and I'm like, I don't really want it. I'm not prepared for the day. And then somebody posts this badass video and it's like, boom, I gotta get on it. And some of you are on this call, and it's like, it's inspiring. but change is changing. It's transformation, and we have to think about how it's going to happen by us and with us. And we have to make these, and I think about ABCs is like, how do we make these transformations aspirational? Like, we don't, you know, even if we don't get to that summit, if we got 3/4 of the way, we're 3/4 further than we were before, but we always get to that summit. We have to make them bold and continuous. We have to be thinking about this constantly. And, you know, I said this earlier about this learning, this continuous motion and this learning. I've had to think about things differently, learning new things, relearning. You know, a lot of times you get caught up in the day-to-day, and you kind of stymie yourself, and you stop learning. Even though you think you're learning, you're really not. You're not pushing yourself. And in many cases, unlearning, you know, how to be that dad that you know is always in teaching mode, or that guy that was doing things a certain way. I've had to unlearn a lot of things, and these transformational ABCs are something that I think about a lot. So back to this road, you know, when I need the water, I know where to go to. I go to my mom. I go to many of you. The road isn't always going to be straight. It looks beautiful on this picture, which hopefully we can get to that summit. But it's going to be curvy and wiggly, and the more that water is there, that we for our families, our communities, that we can lean on, the more we can keep going down that road. You know, continuing to leverage our passion and that fire that we bring from where we come from and why we're here. Why are we on this call? Why are we thinking about that? The platform that we're leveraging, and, you know, I'm blessed, cannot be more blessed than to have had the platform and the HITEC platform to be able to continue this journey. Gaining that perspective, walking in other people's shoes. We have to think about, you know, what is that, you know, right now we're dealing with a lot, you know, Black Lives Matter. I was on the call with listening in with other CEOs and giving them my perspective. In fact, I was the only brown guy on that call. I was listening to the other Black CEOs talk about their concerns and issues, and they were all talking about the opportunity now to take you know, what's in front of us and leverage that to the next level. And purpose, and remembering where we came from to know where we're going, and this whole notion of purpose and really driving to that constant North Star is something that I continue to strive for. So I wanted to share that with you and kind of what's going on in my head, and it's been a journey, and hopefully there's something that you got out of this, whether it's developing a framework. That compass is my framework. What is your framework? What is your purpose? How are you gathering perspectives, and what fires you up every day? And how we lean on each other and this platform that we have to drive forward. And I'm just very grateful that you gave me this opportunity to speak to you all today. So I don't know if there's any questions or comments.
No, thanks for sharing, G. It's really inspirational, and in the end, that's what matters. The fingerprints that we leave on this world, not for us, but for others.
Right.
Hey, G, this is Sam. Thank you for your presentation. I was wondering now that I was seeing this beautiful road ahead, your last slide. Sometimes, you know, the road is in construction, there's deviations, you have to go back and find another road. So do you have an example on which you found such a road, and how did you find the correct way forward again?
Yeah, I think the biggest, you know, I mean, the one that somewhat hits me the most, and I think you've probably heard me talk about this before, is and I actually probably two examples. The one where I actually learned that there was a different purpose other than my career, which was, you know, when I was, you know, giving in a community center, giving backpacks to these underrepresented students, and the one boy that was crying when I gave it to him, and he's like, why are you crying? And I never had a backpack before, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, take a step back, buddy, because it took me a while to even get to that place of, hey, giving out backpacks. And you know, that was years ago, but now it's like there's those are you, bud. Those kids are you. That's what you were, what you look like. And that's where it really kind of gave me that inspiration to move forward. But I think I want to share that recent example. I shared it with the HITEC leadership this last week of, you know, I'm there talking to my son, and he's giving me his perspective on the social injustice. And I wanted to be in teaching mode. And it took me, you know, after that conversation, I stepped back and I didn't listen. I wasn't hearing him. And, you know, you always have to teach your kids, and you always have to teach you kind of guide them. But there's some nuggets that he was telling me that I got, you know what, he was right. He was right in at least a good chunk of that. And I need to think about incorporating what his ideas are, so that he feels like he has a voice, because I wasn't giving him a voice. And I think that's where I've had to think about relearning and unlearning that I have to be in teaching mode to him all the time, and I have to listen. And I think there's a big opportunity for us all to listen right now.
Reggie, thank you so much.
Hey, G, this is Artemio from Dell. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Great presentation. Wanted to ask you, I mean, at the beginning when Omar was introducing you, obviously, you know, you're a great role model and somebody that many of us look at, you know, to get inspiration. But I wonder with the, you know, the current environment and, you know, many bad news coming our way, and obviously, you know, you lead in large organizations, like how do you stay motivated and trying to look on the bright side, right? As a leader, and knowing that many people look at you to get that inspiration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's it's a great point, because it's you know, a lot of times people look at you for that leadership, and you have to show up. We all have to show up. But there's times now, and I think, you know, more than ever, you're thinking about a bit of humility. And, you know, like even this, you know, we started it's a funny example, but, you know, we started when we went into lockdown, we started this thing called the push-up challenge, right? And so every day you would, for every day that we were in lockdown, you would add one push-up or one whatever exercise you wanted to do. But we did that because we knew we were about to go into something really hard. And I think when you know that you're going into something really difficult, into a big project, or into you know, this is unprecedented for us. but we knew that the times were going to be tough, at least for the next 30 days, we thought, right? So let's do this thing and let's get the community together and we'll do this push-up challenge. And then, in 30 days from now, we'll be up to, 50 push-ups or whatever it is, because every day we add one. Well, so I'd wake up every day and I'd give a message, some sort of message about reaching the summit or transformation or whatever. And then I'd do my push-ups and I'd add one every day. And then others would then post their videos, etc. But there were days where it was like, man, I am just so tired. I don't want to do this. And then I'd see like one other person post a video. And I'm like, okay, I got to get at it. So what I kind of, when you're really going through a tough situation like we have been, it's so important that you kind of put a stake in the ground. Go out there, say, we're going to reach, that's the summit that we're going to hit. That's the hill we're going to take. But you have to be the one helping to get to that hill, not just popping out orders, but actually showing the example. So every day, and then we got to about 50 push-ups, and I was like, holy smokes. And then they pushed out the date again, another 30 days. And I'm like, by the time we're done here, we're going to be at 100 probably. And we did. We got to 100. And there were times where I was like, oh man, I can't do this. But we have to keep going. And I think, and I'm hoping that helped inspire and bring, and again, it's a funny example. It happens to be push-ups, but it could be anything. It could be you're leading a project or you're leading something going on now. The remote work strategy that everybody's dealing with. What's the digital transformation strategy that everybody's dealing with right now? If you didn't have a digital transformation strategy when you came into March, you do now, or you better, or you will be obsolete. So thinking about how do I play that role? How can I step up, but being an example. And then when you have those days, is leaning on each other, lean on someone, call somebody up. Don't like, you know what, I back to unlearning some things. Before it was like, I got to do this and, I just got to do it. But now it was like, dude, Angel, Karen, somebody, I need help. And they're like, get on it, bud. And it's like, okay, now we're getting back to, you have to learn to also lean on your community. And that's why we're here in HITEC.
Thank you.
So Guillermo, hi, this is Jorge Benavides from Revature. So I really like the presentation. And now that you talk about leaning on the community, I think it's such an important point. My path to this point has certain similarities to yours. I'm an immigrant, and when I first moved to this country, I did jobs anywhere from landscaping to construction to painting to working in restaurants. My path, I would say, is being like that road, but a zigzag. Hasn't been linear. It has led me to a lot of places that have taught me very different things along the way. So as I look back and I reflect on some of the things that helped me through my journey, I'll say that one of the things that you learn doing all those jobs that I described before is resilience, is resourcefulness. Basically, the history of many immigrants just try to play the system or trying to find a way to get through, barriers that are for most people, very difficult. The other one, and what I think is very important, is the community. I was lucky, I was fortunate to have good people along the way who gave me good advice and who pointed the way in ways that were good for me, that helped me learn and helped me develop. But as I look back, now in hindsight, and now everyone here in this webinar is very accomplished, has excellent careers. We all have the same, we have in common heritage or interest for the community. The one thing that I do feel is like there were very few, if any, really Latino figures that help as mentors in my journey. And that is just that could be a function of just, there's very few of us in the technology world to really help lift each other. That could be, it could be a function of many things. I guess that was just my path. But it's very interesting to look back and see who else is in our community, who else is perhaps of that Latino background or privileged background that we can actually help mentor or bring up. Because I guess coming to a question is, who in your path, in your very successful path, who helped you? Who was there when you needed the advice, when someone gave you the insight that made the difference? It's just not it's just that little intangibles of how to conduct yourself, the politics of navigating, career progression. How did that work out for you? Clearly great. I mean, who helped you?
Yeah, no, you packed in a lot of stuff right there, and you actually made me think about some things that I had forgotten about too. And I go back to the journey, right? And the journey this is why I actually told myself, when I got out of the Navy, I was 22 years old. That was 4 years ago, by the way. Don't laugh. But when I got out of the Navy, it was different than it even is now, because there wasn't a lot of big supporters and, vets and this and that. I was a bit lost, and there wasn't really anybody that kind of looked like me. And so I leaned on people that, luckily while I was in there, I learned about other ethnicities, and I needed to lean on people that were smart and that were accomplished. Initially, there weren't, like you said, there weren't those that looked like me. So I also said, that was another point in time where I said, I don't want that to happen for the next generation. I have to be able to, as I grow, how do we bring up those as we say here, push up, pull up, but how do we bring that next generation along? And I finally found someone in Cisco in my early career, and his name was Carlos Dominguez. And there's probably some of you remember him as what been sort of like, he was like, okay, he was definitely, one thing that I always wanted to do was present well, like Carlos. He was the best presenter in Cisco. But that was one tool that I know I needed to be myself, but that was one tool that I wanted to kind of get from him and to put in my toolkit. But what I had found with Carlos is he actually took me under his wing, and I was a young manager and he was a VP, and he brought me to his staff meeting, and he's like, hey, this guy right here, and I was sitting in the corner. He's like, no, get your butt over here. You sit on this table, right? You sit on that table just like all of us. And there was just him and I were the only ones that looked brown. But that was that moment. And then another watershed moment for me was like, I need to be at this table. I can be at this table. And somebody's going to do it. Why not me? So that was a good moment for me. And I said, I always want to do that for the others that don't have these opportunities, or that they might have an opportunity, but they just, for the cultural reasons or just for whatever reasons, they're just not at the table. I want to bring people to the table. And I still always remember that. And that's why this community, we need to be those ones that bring the others to the table, so that those tables get bigger and bigger. And now's the opportunity. Right now, there's a watershed moment that we need to take advantage of. So I really appreciate that question, because it brought back a lot of memories and thoughts for me.
Thank you.
Glad you ended up that way. This is Leo Dionisio, because I was gonna answer that at a different perspective. to Jorge. One thing that we can bring to the table is help other people to be the mentor to others, right? One way for me of doing that is volunteering, going to a local high school. And I primarily pick the high school in my area that are at the most disadvantaged, and just go and speak to them. And every year or two, thanks to my role, my position, I go and try to leverage the playing field and take 2 or 3 kids from those high school with no background and having doing internship in my area. Really bring me a lot of satisfaction because some of them had nothing about computer, and I know that this is something that can be learned. I know that for multiple reasons because, you know, in my particular case, no, from my early beginning, I knew I was gonna be a computer scientist. But I see some of my peers at work that had degrees in complete different area and are completely genius in database and network and things like that. And they got their opportunities because they are typically related to someone that works in the company. For people that are misrepresented, like Latino and Black, sometimes they don't have that person that you asked for, Jorge, that can help mentor them. And I think it is our job and our duty to be the mentor to those people. I just wanted to add that perspective. But I have a question for G also.
Okay.
What is your perspective on social injustice, like things going around today, Black Lives Matter and things like that? How do you see that?
Yeah, so it's this is a very passionate topic for me because I think that this is an issue that, you know, if you just think about the stories that we're all telling, that we all have a story around it. I have my own stories. I've written about it, blogged about it, which is you know, kind of the challenges. I think that the current the current social equality, let's call it that way, issues are something that have been brewing for quite some time. And it's, by the way, a lot of these things are not just happening in the Black community. They happen in, you know, I've seen my cousins go through this. I've seen, you know, even my son has dealt with some of these issues, and myself. But, you know, at the same time, we need to take this as I say change will happen by us, with us, or to us. Well, things have happened. 2 major things have happened to us. Even though they've been sort of some of these things have been talked about for a long time, changes happen to us. So how do we leverage that shift, that moment for change and transformation to happen by us and with us? And how do we change that conversation so that it's not just about, well, you know what, the Latinos can't get access to capital and the Latinos don't have a seat at the table. Well, guess what? We're all digital now. So if we all turned off our screens right now, we'd be we'd be some of the smartest people in the room. We don't have to show, you know, but then we turn it back on. We need to be able to use that voice and use this opportunity to make that shift, to make it happen. I mentioned that these, you know, one thing that came out of this CEO conversation with the Black CEOs yesterday was there were 2 Black CEOs on the call. And they both said that in the last week, they both have received at least 20 calls to be on boards of big corporations. And they hadn't really seen that before. And in one case, they're going, well, you know, is that just a tokenization thing, or is that they really need me, or is the world really waking up? And, you know, and there was a debate on that. You know, in some cases they were like, I don't want to do that because they're just using me as a token. But on the other hand, it's like, well, wait, how are you ever going to make a change if you don't use this opportunity? And so that was sort of the debate, and it's a hard one to deal with, but I think if we don't use this time, then we're losing, we're going to lose an opportunity. And I think regardless of the situation, we as a community need to step up. We need to show how smart we are. We need to leverage each other, and we need to transform together. And I think we're probably, Viviana.
Thank you, G. No, this has been an amazing conversation. I think it's the kind of conversation that can keep on going. I really appreciate, I think on behalf of everybody, really appreciate you taking the time to share your story, open up your life to us, and providing those, there's those vulnerable moments. I think that speaks volumes about your leadership. And I think, I'll speak for myself, but probably for a lot of others, you've inspired me to do better, to be better, learn, unlearn, and relearn, right? I think those are some of the really key takeaways. And I challenge this group and our community to really lean on each other. This is what we're here for. This is what HITEC is here for. And so, G, thanks for your leadership, for your constant, apoyo and everything that we've been doing. So I appreciate you. So thank you so much for sharing your time today. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This was awesome. Look forward to seeing you all next week, and have a fantastic weekend. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.